indicator of just how long this free Hoover effort has been underway. Tonight, 7 years later, comes commutation from the president. The former gangster disciple leader known as King Larry will be released from the Supermax prison here in Colorado, home of the nation's most dangerous criminals, where Hoover has been serving multiple life sentences for operating a drug gang enterprise that enforced deals and rules at the barrel of a gun. I spoke about the commutation with former Assistant U.S. Attorney Ron Safer, who was lead federal prosecutor on the Chicago case against Larry Hoover.
What's good, man? It's your boy E.I. the King, and this is the Incarceration Podcast, where I talk about prison, pre, post, and present, how everything that I experienced throughout my incarceration has forever changed my life. This is the Incarceration.
All right, good afternoon. This is State of Florida versus Stephen Testa with multiple cases before the court.
Forever Convict family, listen, we are on a journey to 50,000 subs. We are over halfway there. So if you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Share this channel with anybody who enjoys prison content. And if you don't know my story, I've done over 12 years in prison. And all throughout my incarceration on this channel, I share the crazy, funny, goofy, weird prison stories, as well as interviewing other convicts and sharing their stories as well. But most importantly, we highlight the redemptive stories of convicts coming home, leaving their past lifestyle of crime, and now living successfully in society.
Fam, what's good? It's your boy E.I. the King, and today we got some breaking news, man. Larry Hoover has just been pardoned by President Donald Trump. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick reaction video to this news clip right here. So let's go ahead and check it out. Getting the facts,
Been working to get more information on breaking news tonight concerning former Chicago gang leader Larry Hoover. President Trump commuted his sentence earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, this really came as quite a surprise today and raises a lot of questions, including why now and also what comes next for Hoover. Our investigative reporter Chuck Gowdy is here taking a much closer look at this. Chuck?
Steph and Allison, President Trump tonight cutting loose Larry Hoover from multiple life sentences. Federal law enforcement
Dang, look how old Larry Hoover's looking right there. I didn't know he was that old, bro.
Officials say Hoover was and is atop the notorious gangster disciples, calling the shots, literally. In the 80s and 90s, his gang earning more than $100 million a year from cocaine and heroin. Much of the profit, they said, straight into Hoover family members' pockets. Tonight, Hoover and his family celebrating a victory that once seemed impossible.
It's very important for me to get Hoover out, because in an alternate universe, I am him.
Celebrity lobbyist Kanye West in the Oval Office urging President...
Yo, listen, I love Kanye, dog, but I mean, a lot of stuff that he says, I just cannot co-sign. I don't know if y'all just heard what he said, but he says, man, we have to get Larry Hoover out, because I don't know if y'all know this, but I am him. And an alternate universe. What? Bro said, I am him and an alternate universe. We got to go back a little bit, man. We just got to watch that one more time.
Lobbyist Kanye West in the Oval Office.
Hold on, that's when they do it. Right here. Y'all bear with me with the buffer.
In the universe, I am him.
Celebrity lobbyist Kanye West in the Oval Office urging President...
In an alternate universe, I am him. Dang, bro. May y'all pray for Yeezy, man.
Trump to grant the Chicago gang bosses freedom. This meeting during the president's first term, an indicator of just how long this free Hoover effort has been underway. Tonight, 7 years later, comes commutation from the president. The former gangster disciple leader known as King Larry will be released from the Supermax prison here in Colorado, home of the nation's most dangerous criminals, where Hoover has been serving multiple life sentences for operating a drug gang enterprise that enforced deals and rules at the barrel of a gun. I spoke about the commutation with former Assistant U.S. Attorney Ron Safer, who was lead federal prosecutor on the Chicago case against Larry Hoover.
All he had to do was order a shooting, and it was done. Order a beating, and it was done. Order a drug area to be controlled or attacked, and it was done.
So as the man who led the federal prosecution of somebody who had that kind of power, how could any amount of time locked up be enough?
It's difficult, Chuck, to say that there's any amount of time to this crime. This man was the undisputed leader of the largest monolithic gang that this nation has ever known. The gang had at its peak 30,000 members in 28 states.
And so tonight, Larry Hoover's supporters wait to see the reverse of this video. The last time Hoover was incarcerated in Illinois nearly 3 decades ago, being turned over to federal authorities. When Hoover is turned back to state authorities here, he will also go back into state prison, where he is to resume a 200-year sentence for murdering a gang rival in 1973. That, however, is a case in which he's eligible for parole, so it may just be a matter of time before Larry Hoover is indeed back on the streets that no one expected him ever to walk again. How quickly that happens depends on how fast the 74.
All right, so that's what I was wondering, because I remember when I first heard the news that Trump pardoned him from his federal life sentence, that he still had 200 years hanging over him state time. But I didn't know that he was eligible for parole. So that's good news for Hoover, that he could probably and very much possibly be getting out, maybe in the near future.
Year-old Hoover can get a parole hearing on his state of Illinois convictions and whether Governor Pritzker might serve up a commutation as President Trump did today. No, the governor's office has not responded to NBC Chicago regarding that possibility. We'll wait and see. Where Hoover has.
But you know what, though? I was surprised that since President Donald Trump's going to go ahead and pardon him of the federal life sentence, why not just pardon him from the 200-year sentence as well? So I don't know. That's kind of a little confusing. I mean, I would assume that the president has the jurisdiction to pardon not only federal crimes, but, state crimes as well. And it's one thing, it's interesting just to watch the news and kind of just the media, which side people fall on. Of course, the streets and, I would say the predominant, of just this generation and the younger culture is championing, Hoover's release, just with all the artists and all the rappers who are always shouting out free Larry Hoover and, people, just wanting to see somebody come home. Most definitely I'm all for, any convict getting out and having a second chance at life. But then you see other people in the media, such as, these reporters right here who are kind of, hinting at the innuendo of is enough time, is any amount of time enough, for the crimes that he committed or the person and the authority that he carried. And that just goes to show that, man, that you can fall on either side of the line, whether it be, Larry Hoover or anybody, whether people want to see people get out and have a second chance or not. And so I ask you, man, to put it in the comments below, not just Larry Hoover, but anybody in general, any big notorious gang leader or people who've committed, some serious crimes. I'm all for second chances, bro, especially when people have been down for a long amount of time. Rehabilitation is real. And if you don't know my story, dog, I did over 12 years in prison. And throughout my incarceration, man, I authentically encountered Jesus, and the Lord radically transformed my life. And that's what God chose to use in my life was, incarceration to really lead me to a place of brokenness, to surrender my everything to Jesus. So my life was rehabilitated. And now I travel throughout the nation doing prison ministry. So what if I would have gotten sentenced to, a crime that carried life, and I got sentenced to life, and I was rehabilitated. And I know a lot of close friends of mine, my big homies, my dogs, who've got life sentences. And, the state says that they won't have another shot at life. They don't got no parole, but they're not the same person that they once were when they committed those crimes. So I'm all for second chances, man. So once again, man, it's your boy E.I. the King. Whole bunch of fire content y'all way, man. Y'all stay tapped in. And this is the Incarceration Podcast. Peace.
You didn't know, I am a rapper. My artist name is E.I. the King. Check out my music on all streaming platforms. Go to my other YouTube channel, E.I. the King. Check out my music videos. And I'm also releasing a documentary all year. It's really a docu-series. And every Wednesday, I drop a new video. As we've been documenting my transition home from prison and society, from the day of my release, we had a film crew at the gate just documenting my transition home from prison, now in society. Check it out on one of these links above.